Finally, The Rock has come back to the Bob Culture Podcast.
I came to play, this a price to pay. Time for you to get down on your knees and pray. Say goodbye to the good old days. They're never coming back, watch your future fade. I came to play to get my dues paid. I guess you had a dream, but it can't be saved. I'm here to stay, let's get out of my way.
Alright guys, welcome back to the Bob Culture Podcast special Clash of Champions edition. Right now you are listening to the Miz's theme, a cover by my good friends, It Lives It Breeze. I came to play. Guys, as always, thanks for letting me use your tunage. Guys, make sure you check them out on iTunes, Spotify. Their WWE playlists are awesome. Guys, thanks again. We super appreciate it. And right now I got to introduce my co-host with the most, the unicorn himself, hashtag wrestlers absolutely love, Kriss Nunez. Ladies and gentlemen, Kriss Nunez. What's up, bro? How are you?
Thank you for having me. Some would say that intro song is awesome.
There it is. All right, you're done here. Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you for having me, though. I appreciate it.
No, it's always a pleasure, man. And thanks again for coming. We did our 100th episode not too long ago. Raised almost $500 for Connor's Cure. I think right now is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. Guys, keep donating to Connor's Cure, all for a great cause, fighting pediatric cancer. We're all about that here. And just a super great cause. We're super about it. And right now, guys, we got to get right into it. As always, we start with ladies first here on the Bob Culture Podcast. And we're going to talk about the women's tag title match. Of course, we have Bliss and Krus versus Fire and Desire. We were talking about that tag team name.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just go with DeVille and Rose.
Yeah, there you go. Nunez, what do you think about this match? Who's walking out with the women's tag team titles?
I'm glad that the tag team titles are getting exposure. They deservedly so, especially at one point within they were established in February, and I think they were only defended once.
Yeah,
in like a couple months span. So I'm glad the titles are getting exposure. I think Bliss and Krus are going to retain. I think they're going to hold on to the belts for a while. There's not many tag team contenders right now. I mean, you have Fire and Desire, and you have the Iconics, and then that's kind of
good friends, the Iconics.
That's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, for right now, our good friends Billy Kay and Peyton Royce.
How nice were they?
Oh,
man.
they were great. But yeah, I think they're going to retain.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. Obviously, you're going to have that storyline down the road where they do lose the championships eventually. I don't see it happening here, but then you kind of have like the fallout from that. You know,
yeah.
I see. You know, Alexa Bliss is kind of more of a face now than usual.
She is. I don't really like her as a face.
I know what you mean.
She's way better as a heel. I mean, we'll see, because she hasn't been this face role for a long time yet, so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny. I sent you guys the clip earlier today, but obviously we saw the reaction for Stone Cold last night.
Yes.
Great job by the Madison Square Garden crowd both nights. Really great.
Both nights.
I was telling Nunez, I hadn't heard it that loud on TV in such a long time, and the pop for Austin
exactly, yeah,
was great. But I digress. But the what chants... when they were killing AJ with that, I sent you the clip of Bliss, like, getting the what chance, and she goes, say what if you're a moron or whatever, and they go, what? And she's like, exactly, like, she crushed it. Yeah. So total heel all the way. So I see her kind of having, like, the nasty fallout with Krus kind of playing the victim in that one. Down the line, not quite yet. I see them holding on to the tag titles as well. Speaking of tag titles, let's get right into it. Obviously, these guys are going to fight later in the night, but we have Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman, the Raw Tag Team title holders right now, versus kind of a very impromptu, sudden team of Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, which is very interesting. Which way do you see this going?
Actually, both teams are pretty impromptu.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Even though Roode and Ziggler are kind of just thrown together, I do see the OC getting involved at some point, and I think Rollins and Braun are going to lose the belts. Only because you can't, especially with the Universal Champion, like, you can't have him have both, especially the tag team titles. Like, eventually he's got to break away from that, and the tag team titles need to be, presented in a different way. But yeah, I guess I see Ziggler and Roode winning.
I do too, and they've been together for such a short time. But I like the tag belts on them. I like
do
it,
too.
I like it for I want to say Bobby Roode for Robert Roode. I think that's a perfect position for them right now. They both deserve to be holding some sort of strap right now. And I'm excited for that. Doesn't make sense for Rollins and Strowman.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense for them.
Like you always say, we've seen this storyline before.
Yeah, where the tag team titles become props in the main title picture. Like even when they first won the belts, they were holding them up, but Braun was looking at the Universal title as if to say, like the tag team titles don't mean anything. So you don't want any of your titles to be devalued. So that's normally what happens in a storyline like this, where the tag team titles kind of take like a take a back seat.
Yeah, I got you, man.
So
I won't ask you now, but I'm super interested to see what you're going to say about the Universal title match later in the night. Let's move on talking about The Miz versus Shinsuke for the Intercontinental Championship. This should be a pretty cool match. It was interesting tonight. We just finished watching SmackDown. Again, we're doing this one a little bit earlier than we usually do our podcast because Max is getting married this week.
Congrats, Max.
Congrats, Max and Devin, our friends. So super excited for that. We're excited for them. Thank you, Nunez. But it was interesting that Shinsuke wasn't with Sammy. Sammy kind of came out for that Undertaker segment.
Yeah, I think the only reason why Sammy wasn't there was because of the Undertaker segment.
So we'll see what kind of role Sammy plays in that match. And I'm kind of, you kind of swayed me on this as we were talking about this throughout the week. Miz taking that Intercontinental Championship back. I've said it on previous podcasts, like the whole Shane McMahon Miz thing kind of mixed me up. I'm usually very good on these predictions, but like Miz never got his due really in that feud. Earlier in the year, I thought Miz was a serious contender for the WWE Championship.
I did too.
The TV show, he's living the dream.
And then once they turned him face, he hasn't been doing anything.
It's strange to me, almost
it's
one of the best
strange.
in the world. Yeah, it's very, very weird. So I'm going to say this is the spot for him. Him with that Intercontinental Championship is gold. Shinsuke's been kind of juggling titles here and there.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a hot potato kind of title. Lately when he had the U.S. title.
Exactly.
Now when he has the IC title. So I see him losing it, even though it's essentially going to be a 2-on-1 match of sorts. And I see Miz getting this one. You also had some other really good points about Miz winning this one. I don't know if you want to get into that.
Yeah, just with Jericho holding the 9-time title reign, and I believe the Miz, if he wins this title now, he would tie that record.
So
I could see them doing that. It's just a shame because in a perfect world, the roles should be switched. The Miz should be the heel, and Shinsuke should be the face. And I think that would make for a better story, but the way they have it now, so...
yeah, I get that.
This match is such a toss-up. But like you said, I would like the Miz to have the belt. It's better for him. It's like him and the Intercontinental title. They're kind of like always going to be together at some point. He's always going to be feuding for it,
and that's kind of special. Like, you have a guy that's, like, connected to a certain title.
It is, yeah.
Like that. It's not like, he's not getting the big one, because he has before, and I hope to see him with the WWE Championship again.
I hope so, too.
Yeah, but to see him with the IC title sounds perfect. And he's due for a big win like that. I really
He needs it. He needs it. I think everybody needs a big win on the main roster. Say what you want about how people have been booked, but he needs a big win like this. Like I said, when they turned him face, they just haven't really been doing anything. He had the losing streak with Shane McMahon, and then he just hasn't really been doing much after WrestleMania.
Hey, and I'll tell you what, man, there's a reason I picked that I came to play intro for this episode.
Yeah, it's true.
So
yeah, good choice.
Let's go with it. Good tunage, too, as always. Got to talk about the women's... we'll start with the Raw Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch, the man, of course, versus a returning blue-haired Sasha Banks, which clearly...
Returning with a vengeance.
There it is. I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a great match. I do see Sasha being the one to take, because you ask yourself who's going to be the one to dethrone Becky. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we pretty much called it like when Becky was defending 2 belts earlier. We kind of saw how that played out, but it played out exactly like we thought for the most part. Becky is still the Raw Women's Champion, and I do think Sasha will be the one to dethrone her. Do I think it'll happen at this pay-per-view? I don't know. I think it's going to be 2 more matches. Like, I think it's going to be this match and then
probably
the next
Survivor
one.
Series.
Yeah, some sort of...
because that's in 2 months.
Maybe a DQ ending, maybe something I see this one having the unsettled ending. Like
I see both the women's matches getting intertwined because of the match on Raw, and then they've kind of all been interconnecting. I do see Bayley, and likewise, if Bayley interferes, maybe Charlotte will come out, so it'll kind of be like a DQ type thing. I do think Sasha's going to be the one to dethrone her. I don't think it's going to be yet, though. I see Becky holding on to it.
Yeah, plus her being on the game cover, the game being usually October. So that all plays into it, I think, a little bit. The way I think it goes down is Becky retains. We'll talk about the next match in a minute. Mm-hmm. But like I always say, like, don't sleep on this. You guys want to do this 4 horsewomen feud. This is the closest we've really had to it in a long time.
Yeah, we kind of got a sneak preview of it on Monday with the 4 of them being in a match. So.
Everyone's here. Everyone's healthy. Don't sleep on it. Maybe we'll get a huge match at WrestleMania with the 4 of them.
Maybe Fatal 4-Way, maybe.
Moving on, so I think we're both picking Becky.
Becky, yeah.
Let's move on, as we are always a very pro-Becky podcast here, and we have been for a long time. We have Charlotte Flair versus, again, Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I actually see this one going to Charlotte. You know, she gets those titles out of nowhere. We were talking about Alexa Bliss earlier, how she always gets a title. She comes back from an injury, still gets a title.
Exactly.
And I have no problem with it. She's fantastic. Charlotte, obviously living up to the Flair name, but obviously making a name for herself. As we always say, great as a heel, great as a good guy. Mm-hmm. And she can get titles anytime she wants, left and right. Was on the back burner a little bit in the build to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I think this is an easy win for Charlotte, so it kind of puts Becky and Charlotte being the respective title holders for the show. That might nudge Bayley a little bit more in that heel direction, you know, since she's had somewhat of an official heel turn. It's
a weird scenario because 2 weeks ago Bayley was the mega baby face and Charlotte was the dastardly heel, and now ever since Bayley turned heel last week, it's kind of like it's heel versus heel, but then from watching Raw and watching SmackDown these past 2 nights, it's kind of like now Charlotte's kind of a face.
It's interesting.
Like a tweener type, and you don't know what to think, you know?
Yeah, and tweeners are usually my favorite, like if they do it right, like when Kane was like a tweener.
You can go either way.
Gargano was like very interesting in a way, you know, we're very high on it. We could go on about that all day. But I think that's a great point, like kind of like the role reversals a little bit. Bayley does have that essential heel turn, and don't forget, was it like over a year ago, when she had that initial turn on Sasha, right? When she later, was it Sasha, I believe? She laid her out, and then nothing came of it.
She laid her out, and then next week it was like nothing happened.
Yeah, the crowd went nuts, and that's what I worry about this. You know, she had a little bit of that heel turn where she hit Becky with the chair this time, I believe is what it was. And then the next week she kind of explains herself, so she believes her own motives and all this kind of stuff, but she still comes out to the wacky wavable tube man and the you know, happy-go-lucky entrance, but she doesn't hug anyone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
they gotta go one way or the other. You
know? So for me, out of the 4 horsewomen, Bayley's the one that could easily be lost in the shuffle because. It took her winning Money in the Bank and cashing it in the same night to kind of build her up because they haven't been booking her really well for the past year. Like we talked about with the whole thing with her and Sasha, how they dropped the ball with that storyline. It should have been way bigger than it was because it was amazing in NXT. And if they have her lose this match, I feel like it's doing a disservice to her. So I feel like they're going to let her hang on to it. I feel like Bayley's going to win, but it's going to be like the other match where I have a feeling like there's going to be some shenanigans, like somebody's going to get involved.
Yeah, it feels that way.
I feel like both the women's title matches, it's kind of intertwined. Like I feel like they're going to interfere with each other.
Yeah, I totally
but it all depends too on what like how far apart they are. Like is one going to open the pay-per-view? Are they going to be back to back? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. But you see Charlotte walking out with the...
I think Bayley's going to walk out.
You think Bayley's going to... Okay, I got you.
I think she has more to lose, because if Charlotte loses, you know in the back of your mind that she's going to get a belt eventually, whether it's the Raw or the SmackDown.
No question.
Bayley, you don't know when she's going to get another opportunity.
My thought is, you know, it's funny that we're both doing the podcast, and we're essentially agreeing on most things.
Yeah.
But this one, I'll respectfully disagree on this one. I see kind of Charlotte, you know, like I said, she can get a belt at any time, like you just said.
Yeah.
But I see maybe that kind of getting another screw loose in Bayley and maybe
going full blown heel.
Yeah,
okay,
maybe that'll maybe they're
you.
holding off on that because it needs to flow. Like she can't be heel 1 week and face 1 week.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It needs to flow. We'll see what happens though. I agree. There's going to be some shenanigans and no contests and things of that nature. I did put King of the Ring finals here, but as we just saw, it is not going to be on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's going to be on Monday night, which I don't understand why they did that, but...
Yeah, really impressive showing by Chad Gable tonight.
Good for him.
Excited to see him.
Good for him.
Yeah, really, that German suplex was incredible.
Yes.
Really good. He's been killing it lately. He had a fantastic match on 205 Live not too long ago. People were talking about a match of the year, possible contender. But let's talk about King of the Ring real quick. It'll be on Monday, obviously. It would be Baron Corbin versus Chad Gable.
So I'm gonna. It's almost like a John Madden Mad TV answer. It's either gonna be Gable. It's either gonna be Baron Corbin. Yeah, it's either gonna be Baron Corbin. I want Gable to win just because like he's a guy that they don't really use. They haven't been using him. And this is a good spot, a good platform for him to kind of take off and, go from there. I want Gable to win. I could completely see them, WWE, trolling us and having Corbin win.
Yeah. So
I want Gable to win, but I have a feeling it's going to be Corbin.
Also very interesting, like we were talking about this before SmackDown. We were like, it can't be Elias Corbin, similar... Not exactly styles, but they're heels. No one has like a very super flashy moveset.
And also in a tournament finals, it's got to be a face. It works when a face is involved, whether it's a face versus face or a face versus heel. You can't have a heel final. It's just the dynamic. It's like nobody in the crowd has anybody to cheer for.
Yeah, and very interesting that Elias was not on SmackDown.
Yeah, I found that weird, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe something's going on, or maybe they had him on Monday as a triple threat for the finals or something.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But they already played that card with Samoa Joe and Ricochet.
Yeah.
And, of course, Baron Corbin. Man, I hate to be this guy, but recently I was just on another podcast. Functionize, it was called. I got to give them a shout. They're fantastic for having Kate and myself. We're going to have the guys from them on this podcast talking about a lot of really interesting stuff. But they had asked about, Kurt Angle's farewell match and do I think Baron Corbin's the guy? And I basically said, I don't want to knock anyone's career or anything like that or knock anyone. I just don't see it right now. And hopefully he proves me wrong and all that. But going out there with the TGI Fridays greeter gear, as we always say.
And now he's kind of dressed. He looks like he's cosplaying as Dean Ambrose.
Exactly. But I do see him winning this thing though.
Unfortunately, so do I. I want Gable to win, like I said, but I could see Corbin.
Yeah, that would be just such a good misdirect. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong too.
But I see him kind of just popping for himself like he did when he was the general manager and he goes, I am the king of the ring and I'm going to annoy you, and he's going to be that annoying heel. You actually had a really good comment earlier about being a heel. What was it that people love to hate? What were you saying?
Yeah, I was saying before when Rob and I were watching SmackDown, it's one thing to be a heel and everybody loves to hate you. Like Randy Orton, like you love to hate him. Like he's great example. He's very good at getting people to hate him, where you're like, man, I can't wait to get him for him to get his. And it's worse. Like for me with Corbin, it's like he's a heel that nobody cares about. Like, no, you don't, like, it's like, just get off the screen. Like, we don't want to see you. It's like, we don't even hate to hate you. Like, we just go away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
it's a fair point,
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
And not to knock him, because he is a good wrestler. It's just like the way you could say that about a lot of people. It's just the way he's been booked. It's kind of.
Yeah. And we're not here. We don't sit here and knock people. Yeah. Like, that's not what we're about. We try to look at it fairly from all angles, but just, I don't see him being like the next Kurt Angle.
Yeah, me neither.
And hopefully he proves me wrong. As we know, Matt's not here. Matt is very high on Baron Corbin. So
okay,
he sees something there. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Moving along to matches that are actually on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Let's go into Roman versus Rowan. Interesting match here. I got to keep it short and sweet. Interested to see what they're going to do with Rowan. I just got to give it to Roman Reigns. I think it's another one of those easy ones. I don't see him losing to Rowan unless there's some extreme interference or circumstance.
Yeah.
And again, no stipulation here or anything like that. I thought this might be the one with the stipulation.
Yeah, it's just a straight up one-on-one match. I think all the matches on the card, they're all just straight up one-on-one. I don't think there's any stipulations to any of them.
I think you're right. Yeah, man. Yeah, you need to do something about that.
With this one, I could see Daniel Bryan getting involved. At this point, Roman is not untouchable, but like he can endure a loss, like we were talking about before with Charlotte. Like he's going to get his win regardless, and everybody's going to be, going to have that in the back of their head. I could see Rowan getting this match. I mean, I don't see why not.
And what would be interesting to see is, say Kofi does retain, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Roman, kind of goes through this storyline. If he goes through Rowan, eventually goes through Daniel Bryan if it does go that way.
Yeah.
And him kind of being the guy to Kofi and be like, hey, I've been looking at that title, and I'm ready to go and I want to challenge you officially. And then them have a feud and maybe he's the guy who ends Kofi's reign. So I think that would be interesting down the line.
See, me with this is, like I was saying, like Roman eventually, whether he wins or loses this match, he's going to go into the title picture eventually. Yeah. With Rowan, let's say he does get this big win, they could capitalize on it. It's the same if Chad Gable wins the King of the Ring. What do they do from there? Like, are they actually going to do something with the victory? Because it's a big deal.
Yeah. No, good. All very good points, man. It's interesting to see what will happen. And I know we're thinking a little bit far ahead, but that's the way you got to think when you make these picks, man. Absolutely. Talking about the Cruiserweight action a little bit. Drew Gulak, the current Cruiserweight champion, versus Lince Dorado, very interesting, from Lucha House Party. And I want to make sure I say this right. From NXT, of course, we remember Humberto Carrillo. I believe I said that correctly. All very impressive in the ring. Yeah. This is going to be a possible show-stealing match right here.
It could be, triple threat,
205 Live is always fantastic. I like the triple threat here. Really exciting, but I got to say, Drew Gulak definitely retaining.
And good for Lucha House Party, them, with Graham Metalik.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Getting the one-on-one with Rey Mysterio on Raw. Awesome. And then now, he's getting an opportunity, at Clash of Champions. I still think Gulak's going to retain. He hasn't had it for that long, so I think they're going to give him a bit of a run with it.
Yeah, and as he should. Well-deserved. Yeah. Let's keep it moving. Now, we weren't sure about this one as I'm looking up the matches here, because I don't remember it being officially announced. I mean, it's a 3-hour show. Maybe I missed it. The match makes total sense, but of course you have to have AJ Styles defend the United States Championship. Again, we kind of talk about guys who are like connected to a title. I feel like he's very connected to that U.S. title. Had a good run with it, but also the WWE title.
Yeah, he had it for over a year.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, man. Versus Cedric Alexander.
Good for him again. Like we were talking about before with Gable getting an opportunity. Good for Cedric Alexander. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, funny. Should we tell this story? I feel like we should. Funny story. We met Cedric outside of an event in Jersey here. Very nice guy. Took pictures with everybody. Signed everything. Really, really nice guy. And I think someone had said to him, get that 24/7 championship, Cedric. And he goes, I don't want it.
He's like, I don't want that.
And sure enough, he's in this U.S. title picture. Yeah. So good for him. I think, as we always say here on the Bob Culture Podcast, the real winners, the fans.
The fans.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good one. Styles is going to... I don't think he's going to put him over in the sense that he's going to lose, but he's going to do everything but that. I think Styles is going to retain this one in a stellar, stellar match.
Styles is in the same position as Daniel Bryan, where they're very established now, and they could put over people. So Styles just put over Ricochet, and now Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania put over Kofi Kingston. They don't need the win, but I could see him retaining here. I could see the OC getting involved in some capacity, because they're always together. Mm-hmm. I think Cedric Alexander's going to get the belt down the line, though. But right now, I don't see him winning it now. But they could surprise us. That would be really cool if he got the United States title. But I think Styles is going to retain right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair choice. And let's not forget that the OC is heavily involved with Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins and all that kind of stuff.
They don't have an official match, right? They don't have a match on the pay-per-view?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
But they'll be in, like you said, they'll be in Styles' corner.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I like what they're doing with that faction. It's very exciting. Speaking of factions, we got to talk about the New Day versus the Revival. Another one I had to look at because neither of them were on SmackDown tonight.
Yeah, exactly, which is weird.
Talking about factions, we got to keep these things consistent. Like, I understand Kofi is taking on Randy Orton, but that, what do they call it? FTRKO new team is very interesting to me. I'd like to see more with that along the way and keep it consistent. It makes sense the Revival's taking on the New Day. But I hate to, like, this is not disrespectful. I just feel like it's going to be a kickoff match.
No, and I have a feeling too. Like, I have a feeling, and I also have a feeling that the Cruiserweight title, I feel like the Cruiserweight title is always on the kickoff show.
Yeah.
So they might put the Cruiserweight title and the SmackDown tag team titles on the kickoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
And for that reason, usually when it's on the kickoff, I usually
there's
don't
never
go
a title change.
There has
unless
been
it's at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
WrestleMania had a couple title changes.
Yeah, exactly. What was it? I think there was one recently where Finn took on Shinsuke or something for the guys.
Shinsuke won, yeah.
Or it was the other way around. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, just stuff like that. But I think it's going to be New Day retaining. I got to go with that. Plus, they're coming to iPlay America.
Yeah.
The end of this month, and shameless plug as we always do here on the BCP. I'm hoping all three of them are holding gold when they come to. It's great when they bring the belts.
Although, a couple weeks before the Iconics came, they were the champions.
I know, it was like a
and
week
they lost.
Before.
I hope iPlay America isn't a jinx.
Yeah.
And every champion that's going to be there loses their belt right before it. So
it's great though because we all did the Iconics pose with them.
Oh,
it was perfect. There were some. We're gonna have to throw that up on the picture for this.
Definitely.
Podcast with the Iconics because they were so great. And congratulations to Peyton Royce on getting married. Our good friend, she was so sweet.
Perfect 10.
Nice. So let's talk about. So who are you going with? I'm sorry, New Day or Revival?
I'm gonna go with the New Day.
Yeah. Done deal right there.
Yeah.
So let's go to the third component of the New Day: Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton for the WWE. Stupid. I think I'm gonna start the podcast with that instead of an impression. Stupid. Kofi, we were talking about this earlier, this is what happens when we hang out for 2 days and we talk about everything before the show. But Kofi, just fantastic run. We were there when he won at WrestleMania. Just
one of my favorite wrestling moments.
Yeah, really, really special. And we thought, maybe he'd have it through SummerSlam, and he has gone above and beyond. I was telling Nunez the WWE 24 on Kofi Kingston is fantastic.
I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, and I hope to tell him that when we meet him at iPlay, hopefully. But I'm going to say this run goes a little longer. I'm going to stick with my answer from the last pay-per-view predictions, which I believe was, SummerSlam?
Yeah.
It was Kofi versus Orton ended essentially in a no contest.
Which I'm surprised, like we were talking about before, I'm surprised they didn't put a stipulation on this.
This would be the one.
It would be the one, whether it be a no DQ, a street fight, something like that, but they decided to make it straight up one-on-one.
Yeah, earlier I was saying Rowan versus Roman maybe have some sort of stipulation because he was throwing, like hitting him with the cars and throwing, sets at him and stuff. But this one, totally makes sense to kind of change it up. But man, I could see it going either way. I really could. I'm going to say Kofi holds on to it, but mostly because I want him to bring the belt to iPlay.
So I think that's a good reason, but I see this as definitively Kofi goes over because last month he, it was a DQ. It was very like, it wasn't like, what's the word I'm thinking of? It wasn't like a proper conclusion.
Yeah,
I think Kofi's going to hit him with the Trouble in Paradise. They've been booking that move very, very strongly. I think since WrestleMania, nobody's kicked out of the Trouble in Paradise. I believe so.
That's a great point. Wow.
So I think it's going to keep going, and I think he's going to go over on Orton. My thing is, whenever there's a big title match and it's like a big feud, once that ends, it's like, what direction do you go in from here with Kofi? And what direction do you go in with Orton?
Yeah. And another thing about Orton, I've said this before on the podcast, he's a little bit more of a part-timer now. He shows up when he wants, and well-deserved.
Well-deserved,
such a success and accolades over the years and doing all these house shows and traveling. Like, this is the business. You're going 365, 362 a year, whatever it is. Like, you're very, very busy. You're going all year. There's no off-season. The guy deserves a break. He desires to, not to do the house shows and all that kind of stuff. Also for that reason, I have to go with Kofi. Like, and you said, what do you do with Orton? He can pop up anywhere.
Yeah, he can pop up anywhere. Out
of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Kofi Kingston, final answer.
This will be the Kofi's big moment was winning the WWE title at WrestleMania, but ever since he entered the main event feud, that's kind of why they started this feud with Orton, because that was supposed to be the feud 10 years ago to put him in the main event, and it never materialized. So now I love that they're going full circle, and I think that he's going to get the big win here.
Kind of off topic a little bit, and very good points here. Nunez and I were talking again earlier about Cyber Sunday of all things. We
Taboo Tuesday, Cyber Sunday. Yeah,
we talk about all these storylines that are kind of inconclusive, and we know they write these week by week. There's long-term plans, but anything can change. Matches can change.
Injuries happen.
Injuries, stuff
life
like
happens.
That. Crowd reactions steer the ship sometimes.
It's true. Yeah.
But speaking
Becky Lynch is a big example of that.
Yeah, Kofi. Yeah, exactly. But I think we thought maybe today, or not today, but naturally, like very soon, they should bring back like the Cyber Sunday or.
I would love that
because the internet opinions do steer the ship sometimes. I feel, and let's be honest, we all have a lot of opinions, and they're out there. Let's do the voting again. Let's do that. But Nunez also had a good counterpoint.
I feel like the fans, as good as that idea sounds on paper, I have a feeling the fans would take it hostage. And, I mean, rightfully so. Like, if you give the fan the right to vote, they should be able to vote for whoever they want or whatever they want, regardless of what the company thinks, because they gave them that platform to do that. So I feel like the fans would hold it hostage and choose the options that the company doesn't want. But
and there's probably reasons
that's
they
how
don't
it goes.
do it. Or people can like rig the votes or have generators.
Exactly.
In this day and age, it's crazy. So I get it, but a very interesting idea nonetheless. And let's get to the main event, what I imagine would be the main event for this one, especially because they have several matches. So you got to take into account both competitors have already had a match. They've probably already got on each other's bad side at this point, as we know how this usually plays out, a la the HBK John Cena kind of team up once upon a time. Of course, we have Braun Strowman versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. Seth had a great run with it, a little bit of a short run. He was the one who ended up losing it. What was it? It was at SummerSlam. Did he lose? Or no, did he get it back at SummerSlam?
No, he lost it at Money in the Bank. Not Money in the Bank. He lost it at, was that Extreme Rules? Yeah, he lost it at Extreme Rules, and then he got it back at SummerSlam, which was a very good match, by the way.
Defeated Lesnar.
Yeah, defeated Lesnar, yeah.
So he's lost it once already, got it back. Now, my question to you, Nunez, is this Braun Strowman's time? We always talk about how he gets these accolades, but again, another one I feel like they've slept on or, had some maybe backstage trouble or an injury, whatever it is. He's gotten these Battle Royal wins and all these accolades, but never the Universal Championship.
They should have pulled the trigger on him like a year ago, because now Rollins is on a roll. They've had Rollins defeat Brock Lesnar twice already at WrestleMania and then at SummerSlam.
Multiple-time double champion.
Multiple-time double champion. I might be one of the only multiple-time double champions. I'd have to look into that. I don't know many multiple-time double champions.
They love him, and rightfully so.
But it's unfortunate for Braun because, like we were talking about at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view with Braun and Lashley with their last man standing. It's like, where do they go from here? And they decided to push Braun and put him into the main event picture. I just think he's one of those guys, because they haven't pulled the trigger on him, that he'll get to the main event. It's kind of like Samoa Joe, where they get to the main event and they get there, but they never win it. So Seth is on a roll. Congrats to him and Becky.
Yeah,
on the engagement. That's an awesome thing.
Classy guy, Kriss Nunez.
I see Seth. He's going to keep rolling. So it's unfortunate for Braun because he was on the cusp of it, and I thought they would have gave it to him when he faced what was it when Roman had to vacate the title.
Yes.
And then
yes.
And then it was him and Brock, to determine it. He should have won it then.
Yeah, I agree.
They never pulled the trigger on him, and the past couple WrestleManias they haven't really been doing much with him. So
I always go back to that fantastic match. What was it, like 2 summers ago, where it was Braun? It was like a fatal 4-way.
Oh yeah, Braun, Brock, Samoa Joe, and Roman, right?
I feel it had to
it was
be.
Roman. Yeah,
and
that was just fantastic main event.
Braun put everyone through like all 3 table or announce tables or whatever it was.
He was dominant, and then he didn't win.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, man, as much as I'd love to see Braun win it,
and this isn't to say that I don't want Braun to win. I would like to see that, but I just think at this point that they haven't pulled the trigger on him. Like, why do it now? Seth is on a big run. He's on a big roll. I think they're just going to keep the title on him.
Yeah, or Brock Lesnar pops out of nowhere again.
That could happen. Now, remember, though, the winner of this potentially is going to face The Fiend inside Hell in the Cell, because they keep hinting at that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Bray Wyatt's absolutely been killing.
Oh, he's been fantastic.
Interesting fan theory I read briefly this morning, going back to The Fiend real quick.
Okay.
The clock that he changed, the number from the 316 when he hit it with the hammer.
That's right.
Went to 1119, and people were saying that was related to Undertaker's debut date.
Okay. I didn't even know.
Even though it was like technically, I believe the date was technically different, but it was, his debut was like filmed like earlier, and
or that could be the
live debut was different.
That could be the month and the year.
That's what I think people were.
11/19. I think this year.
Yeah, I think people were like hinting at stuff like that, or November 19th or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever it was. But so a lot of hints towards possibly the Undertaker, which is a feud everyone, wants to see. Also, great job by the crowd reacting to the Undertaker tonight. That was really, really cool. I just love seeing the Undertaker in the ring.
Yeah, 30 years. You can't go wrong with it.
30 years. But back to the match. I just have to go Seth Rollins. He's. Yeah. We joke about the man, and there's a lot of controversial stuff going on. The man's man, all that kind of stuff concerning, who owns the rights to that term and yada, yada, yada. But right now, Seth Rollins, I would say, is the man, besides Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
So he'll keep rolling with that. And yeah, I believe that's the full card. Any other parting thoughts or anything like that on this one? It's going to be an pay-per-view.
I mean, we said that about Extreme Rules, and it ended up being really good.
Yeah. So. It has the potential to kind of connect the matches. I do see
kind of surprises.
I do kind of see the OC and AJ Styles getting involved in other matches. I do see a few curveballs, especially concerning the Braun and Seth Rollins stuff. The tag team and them going to the main event. I feel like something's going to change going into it or something.
And that's a good point that you brought up with Brock, because Brock hasn't even been mentioned. And this is when he usually pops up, when nobody's talking about him. And he hasn't gotten his rematch for the Universal title. He hasn't gotten his quote unquote revenge against Rollins for beating him for the title. So this could be the chance that he interferes in the main event.
Love it, man. Really well said. Hey, Nunez, thank you as always for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's great. And guys, we got some good stuff coming up on the BCP. Got to do some shameless promo. We got some stuff up our sleeves. We're excited. Hopefully, we'll be covering the HorrorCon again, coming down to Atlantic City mid-October. A lot of great guests for that. Check them out. NJ HorrorCon. It's going to be great. We had a ball last time. We interviewed Velvet Sky, talked to a Ghostbuster, Ernie Hudson.
Mr. Ernie Hudson. Such an honor.
It was great. I'm so excited for that one. We're going to hopefully talk about the PWI 500 list that came out. I'd like to sit down with you guys, go over maybe like the top 10 and some of the indie guys that we know we've had on the show that have actually made the top 500.
Good for them. Congrats on that.
Oh, yeah. Casey Navarro, Joe Gacy. Congratulations, guys. And just so excited for things to come. So, guys, thank you again for 100 episodes. We're going to keep this going strong and hopefully have some great, fantastic interviews for you guys.
100 more.
Let's do it. All right, guys. We're out. Peace.
Bye.